In this segment, we're going to demonstrate the file operations on the IPA-3400, how to load a saved test template, load previously saved data, and also how auto sequences work. From the top right window, we can either load previously saved test configurations, we can load saved results, and we can either load or run auto sequences. So we will start with loading our configuration. Previously we showed that we can configure the flow test or occlusion test or PCA test. We saved a 200 milliliter per hour configuration. I'm going to go ahead and load that. And now we have all of our settings that we previously configured, and we can start that test. And every time we load that file, it'll automatically be configured and ready to go for that test setup. We can view previously saved results. For example, I saved a test from 200 milliliters per hour. We can see how that test ran. We get all of the data that we had during the test. We can look at the graph. It shows us all of the data that we have available, our average flow, instantaneous, or both. We can look at the volume. Okay. So that's our saved test results. And then we have one more feature for auto sequences. Now this screen allows us to create a new auto sequence or select one that we've already created. The current auto sequence is really just the current settings for the channel, how it's currently set up. So if I go to a new auto sequence, so right now there's no auto sequence loaded. That's what it's telling me. So I want to add a step to the auto sequence. We have to tell it what kind of step do we want. Either we need instructions to the user, make this connection, check the power cord, things like that. Or we need to run a flow test, a PCA test, or an occlusion test. These are the only tests that are available on the IPA-3400. So each step can only be one of these functions. So if we have a keyboard plugged in, we can type in and change these instructions. So this can be step 1, and it even tells us on the screen, plug in a keyboard in order to change these instructions. So we can tell the operator, inspect front panel, or whatever we need to do for that step. We select done, and now we see a step in our auto sequence. So as we add more steps, it's going to ask us where do we want to put the new step. So after the current step is great. Now we want to do a flow test. So we can configure the flow test however we need to have this. 200 milliliters per hour, all of our limits. And we can add a title to this, flow test, 200 milliliters per hour. Now that's going to show up in our list, and we can continue to add more steps to our auto sequence. If we don't like where this one was, maybe we wanted this to be somewhere else, we can move that up or move it down. We can edit that. If we don't like the settings that were in there, we can even change it to a different test type. But all of the settings that were available on the main screen for each type of test are available here when creating an auto sequence. We can really have as many steps as we want, as many instructions and flow tests and occlusion tests, as many as you need to. We can copy this step and make a duplicate of it at the end. And so if I have all my settings, I just want to change one little thing, maybe flow rate from 100 to 200 to 500, it allows me to easily do that and quickly create a whole sequence of testing that needs to be done. I can save this to my system, and we can call this auto sequence 1 or whatever you'd like to call it. We can either save it to the network, we can save it to the flash drive if we plug in a USB flash drive, or we can save it locally to my 3400. So saving it to an external device allows me to then email that to someone else and share it so that everybody is using the same settings. If I want to, let's say, select auto sequence, if I have a computer on the network, a shared drive where I keep all of my auto sequences, I can load them all there, and then we can recall those from that location here, and now everybody can be using the same set of auto sequences. Then in order to run this sequence, this is the one that I was last editing, so that's the current auto sequence. I hit start, and it's going to walk me through the test. Again, if I have a barcode scanner, I can scan this information in. I can type it in with my keyboard. I can type it in on the main screen, the on-screen keyboard, or I could leave it blank and not have to put it in there. So this tells me my first step was an instruction step. Inspect the front panel. Did that pass or fail? I have to tell it whether that passed or failed because it's an instruction step. I can go to the next step. And now it's configuring the system for that occlusion test that I told it to do. And so this is just like running an occlusion test on the 3400 from the main screen. It's going to wait for the pressure to be delivered from the pump. And so now we completed the second step on the auto sequence, which was a occlusion test, and it failed because it was above the limits. I didn't program in any limits, so there's nothing for it to consider to be passing. So we'll do that again, and I'll restart. And the same thing will happen here because I didn't put any limits in there. But we can see what happens when we complete our auto sequence. When we get to the end, it shows me all of the steps that I ran, which ones passed or failed. They either showed green for passing or red for failed. And then I can print this report to a PDF file. And now I can save a test report. Now I have a PDF setting there. I can also save it to a DAT file. So this DAT file can then be transferred over to a computer where we have additional BC Flow software that allows you to do further analysis of the data, and we can also export your data into Excel and also do trumpet curves off of our data.
Thank you for watching this BC Group International production. For more information about our extensive line of BC Biomedical products and products from our vendor alliances, browse BC Marketplace online at bcgroupstore.com. BC Group, we are your one-stop biomed shop.